Yes, you're very punctual.
Today's podcast is sponsored by Security Unlocked, a new podcast from Microsoft focusing on artificial intelligence, machine learning, and security. Check out those links in the description below, but definitely not the person sitting next to me.
You're demystified. No, I don't know. What day is it?
A little foggy today, are we? A little foggy.
How's it going?
Yeah, it's going. It's, you know what I enjoy, Paul? I enjoy when Microsoft, tries to rock 'em, sock 'em to somebody else through no means of their own.
Oh, what happened?
Have you seen the Brad Smith, Australia barbecue commentary?
You know what? I tried 3 times yesterday to write this thing up, and I was like, I just can't. I can't.
It's gonna.
I know.
For those who are not wondering, or maybe are wondering, they probably are wondering what the heck I'm talking about. Australia, angry at the Googles for stealing their news, stealing their dollar dues from their publisher dues, and saying not giving them money, which I tend to agree with, right? Paul and I write something, Google uses it and makes money off of it, that's not so legit. Sure. And as we all know, Google makes the vast majority of their money from advertising when they showcase this content, and Australia wants them to not make money or pay the publishers. And I don't know if you remember, Paul, but Microsoft really screwed up, or Google really screwed up Microsoft's business model when they came out and said, hey, we're going to give away OSs for free and other things, and kind of ruin some stuff. And Brad Smith came out and said, you know what, we support Australia. We hope that Google has to pay people money. And you know what, we hope the U.S. does too. Maybe France, maybe Europe. Everybody should pay.
There are countries, France is one of them, that have an agreement with Google to pay, around the payment of news. And there are going to be more, right? Mm-hmm. But I think what differs in the Australian bit, and the part that Google is really freaked out by, is the arbitration part.
Yeah.
Because the arbitration is not fair to Google, I guess is the way to put it. It's a local arbitrator, and the feeling is that they will, of course, always rule in favor of the local company. And okay, fair enough. But so here's the problem I have with this, with Microsoft's stance. And somebody pointed this out. Microsoft had come out earlier, just briefly, and said, they support this or whatever. Now they've written this big editorial, which is what you're referring to. But whenever that earlier day was, someone on Twitter was like, see, Microsoft's a way better company than Google or Facebook. And I was like, well, Google in the most recent quarter made 81% of its earnings from advertising. Facebook, it's going to be 100%. I mean, might be over 100% if some of their other businesses are losing money. So yeah, naturally they're against this. This goes contrary to their business model. I'm not saying I agree with their business model. In fact, I think their business models are terrible, but whatever, they are their business models. Well, I mean, what's the percentage of money that revenues that Microsoft makes from ads? Less than 10?
It's not much.
It's not much.
Yeah.
I think we can all agree it's not much.
Yeah.
So whatever the figure is, it's very small. So yeah, of course Microsoft supports this. This doesn't impact their business model. So, any gain that Microsoft can make in this market would be a positive step for the company. I don't know. I don't think this is going to change anything from a market share perspective, or whatever you want to call it, between Google and Microsoft.
No, but it brings up I agree from a market share perspective. I don't think it's going to change anything in that capacity, because Google's search results are still superior than to what Bing returns. But what I think is going to be, this is all going to get lumped into potentially here, is there's a lot of antitrust stuff around Google right now. One thing that I could see coming out of this, and I don't know. So one thing Google has done the past 3-4 years or whatever is they've made their product less about search and more about bringing content into their platform and surfacing it, which is very similar. Let's say you search for a definition of the word hello, right? You don't have to go to that website anymore because Google rips it from the website and brings it and shows it there, and you no longer have to click that link to go to
huge
Webster.com.
convenience, unless you're the site that has the definition,
right? Which then, in fact, is true. I would be super curious to see if, when all this antitrust stuff, when all this publisher stuff comes out, if Google just kind of has to return to being just a search engine and not a distributor of knowledge from those particular websites that they're effectively stealing at the end of the day.
Yeah, I think the end result is Google can be profitable paying for news or whatever content,
Oh, easily.
just not as profitable. And this is the thing. I don't remember if this came up yesterday with you or with Andrew, but back in the day, uh, bloggers and websites could exist solely on Google Ads. Today, it's impossible,
Right.
right? And it's not because that stuff became less lucrative. It's because Google took more of it.
Mm-hmm.
So when you're the gatekeeper to a third of every ad, 2/3 of every ad that's shown online, whatever the figure is, that's what you do.
Yeah.
Like how do you keep growing? I mean, you take more of the money. This is the problem with these gatekeepers, Amazon, Apple, Facebook, and Google. This is what happens.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I think I didn't answer it very well or at great length, but somebody asked me about this and asked Paul, generally, not this exact thing, but just this general topic. And privacy with the Apple stuff and business models between Apple and Facebook and so forth. I think these companies are going to have to adapt. They can't. It's going to be some combination of antitrust or regulatory action, legal action,
Mm-hmm.
and now countries. And this is happening all over Europe. Europe has woken up to this too. They don't want to be beholden to these tech giants, and they're going to craft laws that make it impossible for the business as it's been to date to continue. So I think it's all going to change.
Yep. The question is just when and
Yep.
how.
Yep. And how? Yeah, exactly.
It's not a
Well, Google, the right to be forgotten thing, for example. Google was taken, it was accused of how did this happen? Was this regulatory, like antitrust? I don't remember.
I think it was
Well, anyway,
regulatory something.
regulatory, some kind, yeah. So whatever. The EU passed a law, basically. Let's just say, and Google could have handled it in a couple of different ways, but the way they chose to do it was, well, we'll just do it for people that live in the EU. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
well, why would you just do it for everybody? The hope with this other stuff that's happening now is that because it's happening all over the world, that change won't be like localized. It would be weird if in Australia it's like this, and if it's the United States it's a little like this, and if we're in EU it's like this.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, hopefully it's the same, but we'll see.
Mm-hmm. Microsoft also kind of sort of announced a gaming thing
Yeah.
this month, which is like, I'm not even joking. This is how I found out about it. I was scrolling Twitter and I got a promoted ad for this event from Microsoft. I'm like, really? And then I was like, okay, it's got to be something like small or niche. And it's no. I go and look like who's speaking at the event. Peter Lee, Phil Spencer, the people leading cloud gaming. And I was like, why am I learning about
it? Is
yeah, like, so this is happening February 23rd and 24th. It's very much more of like how the like gaming sausage is made sort of thing, rather than like here's new features coming to Xbox. But this is like the incubation stuff that eventually led to cloud gaming, like that type of conversations. And it's like okay, well,
I wonder if there'll be any specific announcements though. There's the EA Play thing that hasn't happened yet on PC. Or
I don't know if this is going to be where they would announce that. This is very much focused on like their AI efforts and how they're including that kind of stuff into Xbox for like matchmaking and other things.
Yeah, maybe they could use AI to figure out how to get xCloud on other platforms. Is that something AI could do?
Supposed to be coming. They said, didn't they say the first half? Oh, I guess that's through June.
Yeah, dude, it's like, come on, can't get it on the PC. What do we?
The piece, like, maybe the iOS one,
sense.
like, I could give them a pass on the iOS because it's not a straightforward. But like the browser,
I know.
Like, come on, like.
It's like, sorry, we spent 17 months evaluating all the different ways you can make an app in Windows 10, and then we just decided, screw it, we're going to use a web app.
I know that was passive aggressive, but there might honestly be some truth in there somewhere along the way. Like maybe they started with UWP, then they went to Reunion, and then they said, we'll just go back to whatever.
Something that works everywhere. Just a thought.
You know what else is just a thought, Paul? Is that there's a new podcast from the evangelist Nick and Natalia. A new podcast actually focusing on, I messed that up. A new podcast called Security Unlocked, where they take a closer look at the latest innovations in threat intelligence, security research, and data science with a special focus on Paul's favorite word, demystifying artificial intelligence and machine learning. They have a new episode out, I believe it was this week, talking about Pluton, which is their new locking down of the CPU in a modern way. And so that is definitely worth a listen. You can find links down in the description below. We can't say what we're doing yet for our 1000th episode, but I'm getting nervous.
You're nervous?
Yeah.
Why can't we say?
I don't know. I feel like we should just wait until next week.
Okay. We do have a surprise coming.
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of people will enjoy it.
Somehow between me reading that,
people that will not enjoy it, but will suffer with it because that's what they do.
Somehow between me reading that sponsored spot and now your mic changed.
Oh, you serious?
Well, I don't know if you're further away, but it lost like the bottom end.
Oh.
Eh.
Well, let's switch it briefly and go back. So this is the web phone.
Yeah, that's
the webcam, whatever. The web phone. How's that? Is that better?
Yeah, it's all right.
Yeah, all right.
It's Friday. There's a reason why
I've done all the troubleshooting I'm going to do, Brad.
Yeah. I also like Intel's new little, if you can power a rocket launch and launch Rocket League, you're not on a Mac. I mean, that's pretty.
That's cute. Yeah.
I mean, it's pretty. Can you not play Rocket League on a Mac? I guess I didn't even know that.
Yeah, obviously, they would have picked something that doesn't work for whatever reason.
This could be real awkward if we find out like Elon's playing Rocket League while he's launching rockets from his M1. But
because I have a PC. Yeah, so I appreciate Intel fighting back. Obviously, I was one of the reviewers that Intel approached about comparing Evo-based PCs with the Mac, M1 Mac. And I've got a lot more stuff to come. I mean, obviously, but it's been interesting to me on two levels. Like I can see what other people are doing because I know you can see out in the world like who you can tell who they've caught because they're starting to release reviews and videos and stuff. There's been this real backlash from the Apple community, as you might expect. You know, like Intel is using specific benchmarks to prove something. It's like, well, right. With this, I mean, you know, Apple uses specific benchmarks to prove things too. The thing that's weird about, but the third thing is, to me, it's weird because Intel, in my experience, has been very open and even-handed and has been out of the way. If anything, they've been slow-moving. I mean, you know, someone last week was like, "You said you were going to rate blah blah blah. What have you been waiting for?" And it's like, I've been waiting for Intel to meet with me, and you know, it finally happened like a week later. But you know, but I'm not complaining. I mean, I think they're handling this properly. But, you know, of course, people are very partisan. I don't know if you notice this, Brad. In the United States or in the tech industry in particular, people get very excited about their little platform of choice, and you know they call to question everything. But I think what Intel is doing is smart and right, and I think what Apple did with the M1 is great, and we're all going to benefit from it. So.
It's almost like we can all be happy that things are getting better.
Yeah. I don't think that the M1 changes too much for the PC, you know, but. I've been kind of in that headspace for a couple of months now. Like the unfortunate thing for Apple in general, but with the M1 in particular, is they can do things that other companies don't and can't. And you can't, as another company, Microsoft has learned this lesson the hard way, and others are learning it in various markets. Google has learned it with the phones, you know, whatever it is. You can't just copy Apple. Like it's just not. Very few companies have the ability, that combination of things. They do everything themselves. They have a very very loyal user base. You saw the thing about the Apple Watch, like 1 in 10 iPhone users have an Apple Watch. That's incredible. You know, you're never going to see that kind of sell through on like a Android Wear or whatever they call it, Wear OS device. Right. You know, like it just doesn't happen. So they're unique, and you know, we can be worried about that or whatever, but I don't think there's a lesson to be learned.
I don't think anybody should be worried. I mean, maybe if you're,
well, you know, those people ringing, like, oh my God, Intel's doomed. You know, like, you know, Intel's is in trouble, honestly. But I think the bigger issue for them is going to be the data center.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
PC space, the PC could continue like this for not forever, but you know, the foreseeable future, it's fine.
Well, it's just every company is going to have cycles, and Intel may have. There's going to be a happy medium for where Intel lives in the market. They're definitely not going anywhere for a very, very long time.
Yeah. But I mean, as far as, you know, when you think about like raw numbers, I mean, there's a big future in the data center with cloud computing and everything, and Intel needs to be part of that. And I assume and hope and expect that they are, you know, working on ARM architecture like designs for the data center with, you know, efficiency cores and low power performance cores, whatever. You know they are. Of course they are. So is this in response to M1? Maybe. I mean, however you want to say it, but you got to give them the right to try and compete.
Yeah. Well, we're better. It's just like in the gaming, like any market, we're better off with more competitors competing because then we, the end user, have more choices and things just get better.
Yeah. Yep.
Or we end up with IE6 for.
Well, by the way, that's an excellent example. That's what happens when you don't have competition, right?
Yeah.
Google and Amazon have both entered this game streaming market, and both of them, I don't know, they have issues. Of course, they have advantages, but I think they've honestly both have brought some form of innovation to this space, which I think Microsoft should pay attention to, and Sony and whoever else.
Mm-hmm.
The stuff they do with their controller pairing is in both cases unique to each other and to the way the rest of the market does it. And there are advantages to that. And, we'll see. We'll see if xCloud, if it evolves to accommodate that kind of a thing, or if other services do, whatever. But more competitions, it's always good.
It is. It's Friday. You got any plans for the weekend besides hopefully not snowing?
Yeah, right. No, not really. Listen to some music.
Are you?
Do the same. It's just this never ending. I'm on a gerbil wheel. It just never gets anywhere, but it keeps going.
It's a really good analogy to this podcast. We keep just
yes.
plowing through. Anyway.
Well, we're going to mix it up soon, Brad. But in the meantime, anything
what you should be doing is checking out Security Unlocked, because today's podcast was brought to you by Security Unlocked. You can find links down in the description below, or go to securityunlockedpodcast.com.
Oh, it looks like snow. Make it stop.